my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to my mini mandala series. In these videos, I show you how to create a little mandala without using any fancy tools. So I'm using a Micron pen. This is a PN plastic nib pen. Any pen will work. I also have a pencil. This is a graphite pencil for some drawing and shading. I have a little blending tool called a tortillon. If you don't have a blending tool, you can use a Q-tip or you could use the edge of a tissue. I'm also starting with a coin to get my round center, and then I have a little piece of scrap paper that I can use as a ruler to help me make some markings. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to start by tracing the coin somewhere on my paper. I'm using a 5" by 5" little sketchbook. Okay. Get that first circle traced on there. And then I like to make a grid. So to make my grid, I'm going to put a line horizontal and a line vertical. So I'm just going to estimate where the center is, and then I'm going to go down this way. I also like to make an X and divide these sections in half. So to do that, I just trying to imagine these being about the same size. Do it nice and light. And this way. I make little tiny dashes, that way I can sort of guide my line or change it as I need to go. Okay, so we have that part down, and now I want to make some little dashes way out here. So I'm going to put my paper right on that first line, and I'm just going to pick a spot that's about 2 fingers width. And I make a line on my paper and then a little dash on that line. And I'm just going to go all the way around. It really doesn't matter if yours are longer or shorter than mine. These mandalas I just make up the day before, the night before. Some of them I make up as we go along. So there is no right or wrong way to do them. We're just having fun. Okay, so we've got those cute little dashes in there. And I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my pen. And I'm going to put in these petal shapes that go from this point to this point. So I'm just going to curve out and in, out and in. And you can decide how wide or how narrow you want them, but try to make them a similar size. We don't typically start by making these large shapes, so this should be kind of fun. And now I'm going to put an aura in the center. That just means I'm going to add an extra circle, nice and slow. Around that middle. And we're going to do something fun in the middle. So I've made this before when I've drawn sunflowers for my Zentangle videos. So we're going to start with a little dot in the center. And I'm going to make a loop. I'm just going to go up and come back down. Round it at the top. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Okay. And then I'm going to go, ooh, goodness. I don't know what happened. Okay. Then I'm going to go just inside of it and make another loop that comes out the other side. Go just inside of that one, come out the other side. You get the idea? Here's my last little line I made, so I'm going to go just inside of that and come out the other side. And then when I get to the end, do it a couple more times. And there we go. So as you can see, some of mine are wider, some got a little bit narrower. That's okay. I just wanted a center that I could make these repetitive little loops with. I love how that turns out. Okay, now with each of these shapes, I want you to put an aura inside or outside. I say inside or outside because if yours are really small and kind of thin, you're welcome to make the aura on the outside. But if you have room, you can make it on the inside. So we're just putting this extra little petal inside. Whenever I draw my mandalas, I feel like every detail I add makes it more unique. I also hope that you use these videos as a practice, and then you go back and make it again, and make it knowing what you want the end product to look like. So you make it again with wider petals or smaller petals, and you add your own details and you change things up. So I hope you use these videos as a good practice or a good starting point, and then you go forward and make your own from it. Okay, inside each of these petals, I wanted to add something kind of pretty. So I'm going to start at that bottom point, and I'm going to go up the side and curve around. And when I curve, I'm going to touch the other side and curl it in. I'll do one over here. I go up the side a little ways, cross over, curl it in. I'm going in the same direction on each petal. And now I'm going to start at that first one. And this time I'm going to start in the center of that little curly Q I made. And I'm going to go the opposite way. So I'm going to go up to the left and come around and curve in. Start at the center, go up and to the left and curve in. Always going nice and slow. And then I should have room for one more. It's going to be small because we're getting to that narrow top. But this time I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to go to the right and then over to the left. So I'm going the opposite of the one I just did. And if you did yours the opposite way or the wrong way or whatever, then just do it again. It doesn't matter. If you make a little mistake, just repeat that mistake and it will look like it's on purpose. So I'm trying to make this fill up the rest of that petal as much as I can. Okay, I'm going to pick up my pencil. And now we're going to add a few more circles around that initial circle that we made. And the tricky thing is that it's going to tuck behind these petals. So if you would like to use your paper to draw out your lines, go ahead, but I'm just going to try to guess at where I want mine. So I'm going to make them about this wide, not quite as wide as my pencil. And I'm just curving around, trying to keep that circular shape and picking up my pencil every time I get to a petal. And I'm going to do that again. We're doing it in pencil, so you can change it or adjust it as you go. And I'm going to make a third one. I'm keeping all of these about the same size, but that's not necessary. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. So this part right here, I hope is not too tricky, but what I want to do is I want to put petals in between each of these petals. So I've got some pencil lines in there. I'm going to continue to use my pencil, and I'm going to imagine about the same size petal being in here and coming up towards that center. And if you want, you could even draw like a dividing line so you know where your center is. So I'm just adding in this extra little petal. And if your lines go out further, that's okay. Your lines can go up into the petal. Got mine drawn in there. And I have room for one more layer of a circle. So this time I'm just going to do it inside the petal. I'm not going to go outside the petal. And if you have more room than I do, then go ahead and add another circle. If you have less room, then you can stop there. Okay, I hope that wasn't too tricky. I'm sorry. I really wanted to try something new this time. Okay, now I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to go to this first circle and I'm going to go ahead and ink it in. So I'm just tracing that circle, picking up my pen as I go around. And I'm going to fill that first circle with straight lines. I like to start in the center. And then put those lines in. I'm not counting them. I know that some of mine are closer together. My petals are closer together, which means I have less space to make lines. And some of them are wider. Then I'm going to ink in my next line. And I'm going to leave this one blank for right now. And I'm going to go to the next section. So I'm going to ink in the next line. In this one, if it's, now we're getting into that petal, so it might go all the way across or it might stop at a petal. And I think I'm going to go ahead and ink in those extra petals right now. And I'm going to ink in my last line. Remember to curve them slightly to get that rounded look. All right, so I'm going to leave one of these circles empty, and I'm going to go to the next one. And in this one, I'm going to put little bumps. And I'm going to fill in the extra spaces. And again, I'm not worrying, I'm not counting how many bumps I have in each one. If your hand is getting tired, loosen your grip. Remember, as you cross over to the next petal, make sure you're in that same circular area. Relax your shoulders. Take nice deep breaths as you draw. I'm going to add an aura to those larger petals. I kind of wish I had done an inside aura, but I completely did not think to do that. So I'm going to add an outside aura now, just so it looks similar to the other petals. All right, I'm going to leave the next row white for right now. And then I have just the tips of these flowers, and I want to add that curly Q shape like I have in the other petals. So I'm actually going to start at the tip, and I'm going to come down and fill it in. So I start at the tip, come down and fill it in. I love how that looks. I'm excited to shade this one and kind of make those first petals sort of pop off the page. All right, I'm going to fill in this, this white one towards the outside, and I'm going to put orbs in there. So I'm going to put a circle. And then I'm going to come off of that circle and sort of squeeze in one on each side. And then I'm going to fill that in. Fill in the extra spaces. So I put a little orb in the middle. And then I squeeze in these ones kind of coming off the side. It almost looks like a little bow. Adding a little reflection in one of them. If you have a different pattern you'd like to put in this, please do it. I love inking in those extra spaces. No reason to rush. And when you get that done, I have that one white area left, and I'm going to add a very narrow band just outside of those straight lines, and I'm going to color that in. I want to bring some of that dark drama to the center. So I'm just going in between each petal and adding a little strip of dark. Curving it as I go to match that circle. And then with my pen, I'm not going to add another band, but I am going to thicken underneath these little bumps, just to sort of match that dark line. So I'm just thickening that. And I was going to leave that band white, but I think I want to add more of those little spirals. So I'm just going to fit one spiral nice and light in each section. See how that just kind of ties it together? I love it. Okay, I'm going to add some graphite to make this a little more three-dimensional, make it pop. So I'm going to start with the center, and just inside where all those little loops are, I'm going to put some graphite. And I'm going to put a little bit of graphite in the very, very center around that darkest area. And then with my blending tool, I can soften this out. And soften that center. And then just outside where I made the coin, that first circle, I'm going to go at the bottom of those little straight lines. And push that out just slightly. And again, at the top of those lines where we added that band, that dark band, I'm jumping over my petals as I do this. Softening it and leaving some white in the center of that band. Now I'm going to go to the bottom of those bumps and add a little bit on the side where the bumps are. So the bottom of the bumps, but right over them. And push that up. And then where I put in those circles, I've got that first little circle or oval, whatever you call it, and I'm going to put a little bit on the outside so it looks like it's bumping over those other ones. Just causing the slightest shadow. You don't need very much at all. And now I'm going to take my graphite and I'm going to go on the outside of those first narrow petals that I made. I'm going to go all the way around it, right over those patterns. And then when I soften that out, it makes that sort of pop off the page. And it pushes those other petals back and behind it. I love that. When you look at those two versus the other ones, it's quite different. The shaded and the non-shaded ones. Just a little bit. I hope you're happy with the way that yours is turning out. This one was a little bit more detailed, a little bit more complicated than some of my other ones. But I like trying new things with you and new techniques that you can use later as you're making your own. I've got one left. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit on the outside of these larger petals. Just to try to lift those off the page a little bit as well. There we go. I grab my eraser and erase my pencil lines. And I'm going to take my pen, I'm going to initial my work. And with all of my mandalas, I write the date down at the bottom, and then I write a little journal entry about what is going on in my life. And I love just that little reminder of what's been on my heart as I've been creating this mandala. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please follow, please subscribe, please follow me on Facebook at Let's Tangle. You can share your work there with me, and I hope you loved this one as much as I did. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.